Hi, it's Richard Barrett here for Guitarist magazine, and I have with me the PRS Fiore. It's the signature model of the snarky puppy guitarist Mark Lettieri. And as you can see, it's an HSS double cutaway, bolt-on neck, and it's got the classic PRS 3-a-side headstock on a maple neck. So that is a maple neck with a separate fretboard. And that fretboard is 10-inch radius all the way down, medium jumbo frets, beautifully dressed actually, this plays great. And it bolts on to the swamp ash body with the usual 4-bolt fixing, but it is rounded off, which does enable easier access to the higher frets. While I have the guitar flipped over, you'll see that the controls and pickup selector are rear mounted under this plate, which allows for this clean look on the front. Now I'll come back to the volume and tones in a minute because there are some nice switching options that deserve to be gone into in detail. But I'll go into the vibrato bridge here first, and that is metal tipped plug-in arm with adjustable tension on the collar, which is nice because you can wobble without any fear of things rattling around in the socket, which is a common thing, and you don't have to go and buy any plumber's tape to get rid of that problem, which is great. It is a hybrid of vintage and modern style design, 2-point bridge, but with pressed steel vintage type saddles, and the neck into body angle allows it to be set fairly flush, so you've got the normal amount of up and down that you would expect from a floating bridge without it being jacked way up off the body. So that is a nice detail in profile. Right, moving on to the pickups. As you'll see, 2 singles and a humbucker. They are PRS own design. I should point out that they don't have the same footprint as regular pickups, so probably not an issue really, but it's worth pointing out. Right, time to talk about the pots and switching options. We have 2 tone controls, one of which deals with the singles here and one deals with the humbucker, so you can set those up separately, which is quite useful if you want to set up a really bright funk tone and have the darker humbucker. And I think this design of guitar really is trying to cater for that. The tone controls themselves are 500k pots, which is very standard, though the master volume is actually a 300k pot. As you may know, humbuckers traditionally have a 500k pot, and singles traditionally have a 250k, so this is something of a compromise, which works very well because the guitar's acoustic voice is quite bright naturally, and you want that, but you also don't want the humbucker being too jangly. So we have that as a 300k, and there is a treble bleed, so as you turn the guitar down, especially if you're using a distorted sound, things don't get too mushy and you don't lose the detail, which is very handy. Right, there's more though. So let's get into the bridge position here, and I'll give you a couple of sounds to listen to while we do this. Bridge pickup, pretty clean sound. Now, pulling up the bridge tone control, we have parallel. The difference between this and a coil tap is that the coil tap actually turns off one of the coils and splits the pickup. Well, this doesn't do that. Putting them in parallel gives you a little bit less output and a much brighter tone. So it's still humbucking. Okay, so that's your humbucker tone control. Now let's just talk about the single coils tone control before we get into going through all of the sounds available here. But I'm going to leave it for the moment with the bridge pickup selected in parallel. So pulling this up, I've added in the neck. Which gives these two together, and obviously that's a sound that you wouldn't normally be able to get from this guitar. Obviously with that on, it affects how you'll hear these other positions. You'll have all 3. Middle is middle. Neck and middle becomes all three as well. And neck is neck and bridge again. So popping that back in and keeping the parallel switch up, this is probably the most familiar layout to the traditional double cutaway bolt-on neck type guitar player. Let's play a couple of things and I'll talk you through the sounds. First of all, just the parallel bridge. Then let's go for these two together, bridge and middle. Okay, then middle. Moving on, neck and middle. And neck. So there you have it. You have quite a few switching options that make this guitar quite a realistic proposition if you're only going to take one guitar to a show. You can get an almost Gibson, dare I say it, type sound from the bridge pickup, and you've got quite a lot of switching options to shape that sound, plus a master volume which will take any of those selections and you can reduce it without losing the top end.